Sailing Doodles has over 600,000 subscribers, but most viewers have no idea that Bobby White survived a brain hemorrhage, lost 2 boats worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and barely escaped a burning catamaran in the Atlantic Ocean. Most people think sailing full-time is all about paradise beaches and crystal blue water, but the numbers tell a completely different story. Bobby White burned through his entire life savings in just 6 months on his first boat, spent 17 hours uploading a single video from remote islands, and had to rebuild his entire life 3 separate times after disasters that would make most people quit forever. The perfect drone shots and calm sailing videos hide the fact that Bobby had 0 sailing experience when he bought his first boat, learned everything from YouTube tutorials while actually living on the water, and worked 16-hour days just to keep his channel running while dealing with constant mechanical breakdowns. What you're about to discover is the real timeline of Sailing Doodles, including the exact moment Bobby's flying career ended with a phone call he couldn't read, the Category 5 hurricane that ripped his boat apart while he watched helplessly from thousands of miles away, and the terrifying night when flames filled his cabin and the Coast Guard had to pull him off a sinking catamaran. Bobby woke up one Tuesday morning feeling off. His head hurt, but not like a regular headache. He'd been flying private jets for years, so he knew what exhaustion felt like, what jet lag felt like, what stress felt like. This was different. He picked up his phone to check his flight schedule and couldn't read the words on the screen. They looked like meaningless shapes. His hands trembled. He tried to stand and almost fell. Panic set in fast. Within 2 hours, he was in a hospital emergency room hearing the worst news of his life. You've had a hemorrhagic stroke. Blood vessels burst in your brain. Your pilot license is gone. Your career is over. Imagine spending your whole adult life building a career and losing it in one morning. Bobby had worked for years to become a corporate jet pilot. He flew Gulfstreams and Lear jets for wealthy clients, traveling to exotic locations, staying in luxury hotels, making good money. He had purpose, identity, and a future planned out. Then his own body betrayed him. For pilots, a medical certificate is everything. One health problem and you're grounded permanently. The FAA doesn't give second chances. Other pilots lost their licenses over high blood pressure or diabetes. A stroke meant Bobby would never fly commercially again. His entire identity vanished overnight. He spent weeks in his apartment feeling lost and depressed, trying to figure out who he was without flying. That's when he started watching sailing videos online. He'd always been interested in boats, but never had time to pursue it. Now he had nothing but time. He started researching, reading, planning. A crazy idea formed. He would sell everything, buy a sailboat, and start completely over. His friends and family thought he'd lost his mind. But Bobby was determined. He sold his car, his furniture, almost everything he owned. With that money, he bought a 1984 sailboat, 37 feet long, named Rough Seas. It wasn't fancy. It was old and had problems, but it was his. He brought 2 Labradoodles with him, Maverick and Goose, named after the Top Gun characters. These weren't just pets. They were his crew, his family, his companions in this new adventure. In October 2016, Bobby started sailing and launched a YouTube channel called Sailing Doodles. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Bobby had never sailed before. Not really. He'd watched YouTube videos and read some books, but that's like learning brain surgery from Wikipedia. It's not the same as actual experience, but he was committed. He pointed Rough Seas toward the Caribbean and hoped he'd figure it out along the way. The early videos looked perfect. Blue water, white beaches, palm trees, happy dogs playing on deck. Viewers loved it. Comments poured in from people saying they wanted to quit their jobs and do the same thing. They saw freedom and adventure. They saw a man living the dream. But behind the camera was a different reality. Bobby worked 16-hour days editing videos on a laptop that constantly overheated in the tropical heat. He'd row his small dinghy to shore late at night searching for Wi-Fi to upload videos. Years later, he admitted that sometimes uploading one episode took 17 hours because the internet connections were so slow in remote locations. That's almost a full day of work just to post one video, and Rough Seas was falling apart. The engine burned fuel like crazy. The electrical system was ancient and unreliable. Water leaked through cracks he couldn't locate. Sails tore, ropes frayed, equipment broke constantly. Every single day brought new problems Bobby had to solve himself because hiring professionals was too expensive. He learned through mistakes. He ran aground and had to wait hours for the tide. He got caught in storms with broken navigation equipment. He thought his savings would last a year. 6 months later, the money was gone, and he was struggling to afford basic food and fuel. That's when the YouTube channel stopped being a hobby and became his lifeline. It was his only income, so he posted more frequently, made longer videos, tried to grow his audience faster. Subscribers increased slowly. People started supporting him on Patreon. He sold some merchandise. The channel began making just enough money to cover expenses. But this created a new problem. Bobby couldn't just sail anymore. Every moment needed to be content. Every sunset needed filming. Every repair needed documenting. Every location needed a story. He became a full-time content creator who happened to live on a boat, not a sailor who sometimes made videos. Then, September 2017 changed everything. Bobby had docked rough seas in Puerto Rico and flown back to the mainland for some business. While he was gone, Hurricane Maria formed. Weather experts watched it grow from a tropical storm into a Category 5 monster. It was heading directly toward Puerto Rico. Bobby watched the news from thousands of miles away, completely helpless. His boat, his home, his entire new life was sitting in the direct path of one of the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded. When Maria slammed into Puerto Rico, it devastated the island. Power grids collapsed. Water systems failed. Entire communities were destroyed. Thousands died, and Bobby's boat was right in the middle of it. Weeks later, when Bobby finally returned to Puerto Rico, what he found crushed him. Rough Seas was destroyed. The mast had snapped completely. The hull had major cracks. Everything inside was waterlogged and ruined. All his electronics were dead. His personal belongings were gone. The boat that had saved him after his stroke, the boat that had given him a new purpose, was now just floating wreckage. Before the hurricane, Bobby had been negotiating with someone who wanted to buy Rough Seas. That would have given him money to upgrade to a better boat. After Maria, the buyer vanished. Nobody wanted a destroyed boat. Bobby couldn't afford the repairs. They'd cost more than the boat was worth, so he made a heartbreaking choice. He gave the boat away for free to someone who said they'd try to fix it. Bobby walked away with nothing. The stroke took his pilot career. Now a hurricane took his boat. Most people would call this a sign from the universe to give up. Bobby saw it differently. Through sailing connections, he heard about Ron Patson, who owned golf charters in Thailand. Ron needed someone to deliver a 50-foot sailboat called White Squall from Vancouver to Thailand. The deal was simple. Successfully deliver the boat and it becomes yours. Bobby immediately said yes. He flew to Vancouver and partnered with Laura, someone who'd been following his channel and volunteered to help crew. Together, they prepared White Squall for a massive Pacific crossing. They loaded supplies, checked systems, studied navigation charts, and planned their route carefully. Then they set sail toward Mexico. This Pacific journey became Sailing Doodles' most popular content. Bobby and Laura filmed everything. Beautiful days with perfect wind and dolphins swimming alongside. Terrifying days with massive storms and waves crashing over the bow. Boring days with nothing but endless ocean. They stopped in Mexico and explored the coastline. They pushed south to French Polynesia and visited remote islands. The channel exploded in popularity. Thousands of new subscribers joined monthly. The comment sections were full of engaged viewers living vicariously through their adventures. But success brought pressure. Subscribers expected regular uploads. Patreon supporters wanted exclusive content. Sponsors needed their products featured prominently. Bobby wasn't just sailing anymore. He was managing a business, editing content, responding to comments, fulfilling sponsor obligations, and actually trying to sail safely. The dream lifestyle was becoming exhausting work. By late 2020, Bobby had upgraded to an even bigger boat. He sold White Squall and purchased a 56-foot catamaran called Naughty Dog. This was a proper ocean crossing vessel with modern systems and reliable equipment. It felt like validation. All the struggles had led here. Bobby was sailing solo up the East Coast in early November. Weather was decent. Systems were running smoothly. Everything seemed perfect. Then one afternoon, everything collapsed at once. The anchor broke free from its bow mount. The heavy chain dropped into the water and immediately tangled around the spinning propeller. Bobby tried reversing the engine to free it, but this made things worse. The transmission started grinding horribly and then failed completely. Without propeller power, the boat became uncontrollable. Then smoke started rising from below deck. Bobby ran down and found flames coming from the engine compartment. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and tried to fight it, but the fire had already spread to wiring and fuel lines. Thick black smoke filled the cabin. Bobby was alone in the Atlantic with a burning boat, no engine, and no way to control his position. He grabbed his emergency radio and called the Coast Guard. He stayed calm and gave them his exact coordinates while watching his home burn around him. The Coast Guard responded incredibly fast. They launched a helicopter and dispatched a rescue boat. Bobby grabbed his important documents, put on a life jacket, and waited on deck as flames and smoke poured from below. When rescuers arrived, they pulled him to safety. From the rescue boat, Bobby watched Naughty Dog drift away, still burning. The damage assessment was devastating. The fire destroyed the engine, electrical system, and most of the interior. Water damage ruined what the fire hadn't touched. The repair estimate came back at over $100,000. Insurance didn't cover everything. Bobby faced potential financial ruin again. Viewers expected him to quit. Comments said things like maybe the universe is telling you something or it's time to return to land. But Bobby refused to see it that way. He'd survived worse. He started fundraising, contacted sponsors, arranged payment plans with repair facilities. It took months, but he got Naughty Dog repaired and seaworthy again. Throughout the entire process, he documented everything and kept posting videos. But some losses can't be repaired with money. Maverick, one of the original Labradoodles who'd been there since day one, died in 2020. Longtime viewers were heartbroken. Maverick wasn't just Bobby's dog. He was part of the channel's identity. Goose went to live with Bobby's parents in Texas, where he could have stability and a yard. The two dogs that gave Sailing Doodles its name were gone. Then Laura decided to leave. She and Bobby had spent years together in very close quarters, traveling thousands of miles, dealing with constant stress. Eventually, they needed different things. Bobby made an honest video explaining the breakup. No drama, no blame. Just two people who'd grown apart after sharing an intense experience. The separation was sad but necessary. Think about everything Bobby lost. A stroke took his pilot career. Hurricane Maria destroyed his first boat. An engine fire nearly killed him. His dogs were gone. His relationship ended. Each of these alone would break most people. Together, they should have been impossible to overcome. But Bobby kept rebuilding because he'd learned something crucial. The ocean doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're tired, scared, broke, or heartbroken. It keeps moving and keeps testing you. You either adapt or you sink. Bobby chose to adapt every single time. Today, Sailing Doodles has over 600,000 subscribers. Bobby has sponsors supporting him and a Patreon community funding his adventures. He's crossed multiple oceans, visited dozens of countries, and survived more emergencies than most sailors experience in a lifetime. But the channel evolved. It's no longer just beautiful sunset videos. Bobby now shows the reality. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the constant repairs, the actual cost of this lifestyle. He admits that some days he doesn't want to film or sail or deal with any of it. And paradoxically, this honesty made the channel more successful. People don't just want the fantasy anymore. They want the truth. Bobby once said something that perfectly captures his journey. The sea doesn't care about your plans. You can prepare everything perfectly, check weather reports obsessively, maintain your boat constantly, and the ocean will still surprise you with something unexpected. A sudden storm, equipment failure, bad luck. The water tests everyone equally regardless of experience, fame, or money. It finds your weaknesses and exploits them mercilessly. Your only option is to learn, adapt, and keep going. That's the real story of Sailing Doodles. It's not about sailing. It's about what happens when life destroys everything you have and you decide to rebuild anyway. Most people never face that choice, but Bobby faced it 3 times and chose to continue every time. The stroke could have ended him. The hurricane could have ended him. The fire could have ended him. Instead, each disaster became fuel for the next chapter. That's not luck. That's pure determination. Freedom isn't about escaping problems. It's about choosing which problems you want. Bobby could have returned to land, found a safe job, lived normally. But normal life has its own problems like boredom and routine. He chose the problems that came with freedom because those problems felt worth solving. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think about this journey.